Oh, well, the
was the heart muscle.
myocardium is the heart muscle.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope we got that.
So what's the middle? Because I missed when you said I was
Okay.
writing.
So this part here is the interventricular septum,
Okay.
okay? And so, you know, this is the main
And
muscle
that's on
mass.
the right side?
So this is the right side, this is the left side.
Okay.
When you're identifying a heart muscle, you know, you're trying to identify the ventricles, first thing you want to identify, find the septum, and then look at the outer walls. The outer wall is really thick, it's the left side. If it's not thick, it's the right side.
Okay.
It's not, you know, and
And
that's
that just separates the two ventricles?
well, it separates it, but also it's really evolutionarily the interventricular septum is part of the left ventricle more than it is the right ventricle.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the left side has a chamber, so to speak.
Right.
The right
The right
side's
side's-
chamber is part
It's just,
of the
right,
left
it's
side.
just wrapped around. If you look at it, it's wrapped around. And so evolutionarily, this right side, which actually started off as a different chamber in fish that was located in a different area, it kind of folded up and then wrapped around the left, what is now the left ventricle.
Can you go over the pericardial sac? I understand, but you've got a visceral and a parietal.
Okay, so here's the pericardial sac is the parietal pericardium. All these serous tissues, okay, I thought we talked about that in the very beginning of the term, very beginning of the fall. So basically, you have serous tissues which line a cavity and then cover an organ. Now, obviously, this is in a medius sinus, doesn't have a cavity per se. It's kind of like right in the middle of the thoracic cavity. But this sac actually is in contact with the parietal pleura, which are the outer coverings of the lungs, and then the inner portion of it is actually in direct contact with the myocardial tissue.
So that's the
What you see, the shiny tissue right here,
that's the visceral. Is that
that's
right?
the visceral pericardium.
All right.
And if I take a pin and put it through here, the first thing I'm penetrating is the visceral pericardium.
Okay.
If I look at it right here, the first thing I'm penetrating is the myocardium.
So this is the parietal pericardium then.
This is the parietal pericardium.
Gotcha.
But it's, technically speaking, okay, it's also referred to as pericardial sac because it makes a sac.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I remember, I think it was earlier on, that we went over the heart sits inside kind of like a balloon, but it's
This is the
smashed.
balloon right here.
That's what I was wondering,
This is the balloon.
wrapped around
Right.
the heart.
So essentially, if you take your fist, you get a real soft balloon,
Yeah,
and you
that's-
push your fist into the balloon, then the part that's on your fist is the visceral part, and the other, you know, around the air is the parietal part. Okay.
Yeah, that's what-
And so this is the parietal part right here. Okay. And then here's the visceral part here.
Myocardium.
The myocardium is basically the layer underneath this, or you see it when you look at the section apart.
Where's the apex?
The apex is the pointy part.
The pointy part.
Yeah.
So-
And the base is the non-pointy part.
So where exactly? Because I know this is all the heart muscle, and that's
Yeah.
what myocardium means, is heart muscle.
Yeah.
So
All this is myocardium, everything.
I
Okay?
was just trying to be specific as possible.
No, I mean,
Okay.
so that's myocardium, I
Okay.
mean, all this. But the outer layer, this layer, which is a two-layer connective tissue, this is visceral pericardium. That's why it's
Okay.
shiny. See, it looks like a totally different, looks different, doesn't it?
So if you were to remove all of the pericardium, both the visceral and
would-
parietal
Yeah, well-
would be in a single sheet, essentially.
Theoretically, the problem is that this is directly connected. You can't pull this apart.
Right.
You can't take this off. Some folks have tried, looks like, because it's directly infused. You can see this if you look at cardiac tissue where you get a section through the pericardium. You can actually see this, you know, histologically. Okay, but that most of our slides aren't oriented towards that. But the point is, it's not easily removed. All right. And then in all of these little, you know, grooves in here, sulci, things like that, that's where all of the blood vessels go that feed this. I think there's a few other things. For example, some of the coronary arteries. Here's one of the circumflex artery right in here. You can see a piece of that right in there that's going through. Here you see on this one. Also, you have one that comes across here. That's part of. Now, these are the arteries that actually feed the actual coronary, the muscle tissue itself. And they're coming off, and I don't know if I can see it. Oh, right there. Oh, look at like that. You can see it. It comes off the base of the aorta, so you can see it. If I put my probe through there, I'm going through one of the circumflex arteries right there.
So they supply what?
They supply the, oh, look at that, there's the other end of it, oh, cool. There it is, see, look at that, see, it goes. So,
Okay, now I see.
Oh, okay.
neat. So they supply cardiac muscle itself. So what the heart's doing is taking all this blood and pumping it out through, arteries to all the other systemic tissue. But you gotta feed the muscle tissue here, because if you don't, it's gonna die. Okay? And so all of this, it comes out of the aorta, it's spread, it goes all around the circumference here, and then it comes down the anterior side, it comes down the posterior side, and then basically branches out. And we'll look at this in lecture. It branches out into some very, very small, arterioles and lots and lots of capillary networks around all of the myofibrils. Okay? And so this is important because this is a muscle that is always aerobic. It cannot go anaerobic, never. If it does, we call it a heart attack.
Where are the pulmonary veins? Because I can see them.
Okay, you're not going to see pulmonary veins per se. What you're seeing are openings. So if we find a left atrium, let's see, this one is all, well, oh, look at that. Oh, cool. So here's a left atrium. So here's an opening of one of the pulmonary veins right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And the
And
one on the
that
top
one's right there.
is actually, no, actually, if you look at that, that's the first part of, this is part of the aorta.
Oh,
Here.
Cool.
What we're looking at there. So this basically the input, this is going to be, the coming back from the lung. And so the pulmonary veins are going to, and you got to look at these. We're going to talk more about this next time, but when we look at arteries, they're carrying blood away from the heart, and veins are carrying blood to the heart. Don't get caught up in colors and oxygenation, because basically the blood leaving the aorta obviously is oxygenated, right? But, the pulmonary artery is deoxygenated. It's taken blood from the systemic return, basically from the right ventricle, to the lungs, and so it has no, it's depleted of oxygen. On the other hand, the pulmonary veins, which have just come from